بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصلي عليه في كل لمحة ونفس عدد ما وسعه علم الله. I pray everybody's well, inshallah. Today is the last and final lesson of chemistry of Tajweed al-Huruf, part 1, where we looked at the theoretical side, inshallah. Now we're going to be moving on towards Ibtida. But before I do Ibtida, I want to quick little recap on Al-Waqf. I sent out a worksheet yesterday in the WhatsApp group that I will, inshallah, go through quickly so that everybody understands the notes from last night. And then we'll do the Ibtida, and then from next week, inshallah, it'll be practical. If you look at the notes from in the WhatsApp group that I sent out, the signs of waqf that you could find in the Quran. The first sign that you could find, it mentions, is the round circle that you find at the end of an ayah. Okay, and this is the complete stop. Okay, represents the finishing end of a specific verse of the Quran. Okay, it's also known as the perfect stop. It's represented by a simple circle. In subcontinent India and Pakistan, they call it a Ra. Okay, did you know? So that's like, for example, Maliki Yawmiddin. And then after that, you've got the round circle. The example has been given. The second one is a small little Meem. And this is the compulsory stop, where you must stop. Okay, and not stopping here, as discussed yesterday, will inevitably alter the meaning. Like the example in Surah Yasin, فَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ قَوْلُهُمْ إِنَّا نَعْلَمُ مَا يُسِرُّونَ وَمَا يُعْلِنُونَ. So here, at the word قَوْلُهُمْ, you must stop and break your nafas, break your breath. And not stopping here will have a direct impact on the meaning. The next one is a small little thought. Okay, and this is the waqful mutlaq. It's a sign, it's a stop sign to indicate to the reader to take a gap in reciting the long passage by taking a breath and discontinue the recitation for a short period of time, and this time allows you to ponder and contemplate upon the meaning of the Quran also. And you'll see this quite often in the Quran. Like you can see here, يَكَادُ الْبَرْقُ يَخْطَفُ أَبْصَارَهُمْ. Take a breath, breathe, pause, and then you continue. كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُمْ مَشَوْا فِيهِ وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. And then stop again and take a pause and breathe. Ponder. Then وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ. And then you can pause, breathe, ponder upon the meaning. إن الله على كل شيء قدير. تمام. So wherever you see this little thought, you could stop, you could take a little breath and contemplate upon the meanings of the ayat that you are reciting. The next one is a small little Jeem. Okay, this is al-waqf al-jawaz. So waqf, that is jaiz, permissible. Okay, so it points towards the completion of a matter discussed in that fragment of the ayah, in that portion of the ayah. So one needs to stop here. Okay, although it is not obligatory, it's not wajib upon you to stop here, like the waqful lazim was. So you could stop here, you could absorb the meaning discussed in the previous part, what you just recited. Okay, and get ready to know more about what's coming ahead, inshallah. So here example is وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ. And then contemplate, think, pause, and then continue. يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى. تمام. So this is the work that is jaiz. Okay, next one you've got here is a sign, a little small zay or zain. And this is waqf al-mujawwaz, means one does not need to take a pause here, okay, and continue the recital process, although there is no prohibition, law against you stopping here. So if somebody stopped here, there's no issue. And that you can find in the Surah Al-Mulk. تبارك الذي بيده الملك. And then stopping, taking a breath. وهو على كل شيء قدير. So here you recited and you took a pause and then you continue. So this is the small little zain, small little sound that you'll find in the Quran. The next one is small aswad. And this is the murakhas al-khas. It's a symbol that permits the reader to take a break and take a breath, okay, in case if it's getting tired. But it is highly advisable to carry on reciting, not to stop here. Okay. And again here in Surah Mulk, قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And stopping here. Okay, so it's best to continue. قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. So it's best to continue rather than stop here. The next one, al-wasl awla. Okay, so it's a sad, lam, and little ya. Al-wasl means to join, okay? Meaning, joining is awla, preferred, meaning do not stop here and continue reciting. And that's like in Surah Baqarah, reciting, قُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا. And stopping here, it's not preferred, it's not liked. It's best to continue, okay? Avoid stopping here, okay? There's no need. So how would you recite this? قلنا اهبطوا منها جميعا فإما يأتينكم مني هدى فمن تبع هداي فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Okay, so here is preferred to continue rather than stopping. The next one, you've got the letter Qaf. Now remember, not all of these alamat, not all of these signs you will find in your particular Mushaf. Okay, so I had to search quite vigorously last night, hence why after the lesson I think sent the notes out, the ayat around about, I think it's about 2 or 3 in the morning Egyptian time, so about midnight UK time, because it took me a while to find them, the examples from the Quran. And the reason being, the Mus'haf that you have in the Saudi script, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, when you go and do Umrah, the Mus'haf you find there doesn't have all of the alamat. Same here in Egypt, because they expect the Arabs to know the meaning and know that, you know, I shouldn't be stopping here. It doesn't make sense. Okay, like no Egyptian or no Arab would ever recite Tabbat yada abi and stop. Okay, so nobody would ever, because they understand what tabbat means and what does yada mean and abi means, that I'm cursing my own father. Okay, so nobody would stop here. Or for example, قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد. No Arab or somebody who understands the Arabic language would stop here. Okay, so they wouldn't put many signs into the Quran. They expect you to know them. Whereas if you look at the Indo-Pakistani Mushaf or the South African Masahif, you'll see that they've got all of the markers in there. And at times it does get a little confusing when you don't know what each one represents and what each one means. So, so the meaning here would be, قل, say, يا أيها الكافرون, O you who disbelieve, لا أعبد, I also don't believe. So you're telling the kuffar, yeah, the disbelievers, that me too, I don't believe as well. Na'udhu billah. Okay. So you must continue. This is waqf kabih. Okay. The awhash, the worst stop that you could do. Okay, that will affect your aqaid, your aqidah as well. Next one, the letter Qaf, okay, is a sign that shows not to stop the recitation, although there are differing opinions on whether to stop reading the verse or not. So this Qaf, you best not to stop. Okay, even though there's different the difference of opinions, best not to stop. Okay, because the only marker that we must stop upon is the waqful lazim. Okay, other than that, it's best if you can continue. So the example here in Surah Baqarah again. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورِ. So here I've stopped because it's a little thought. So I could stop, I could take my breath, okay, because in the next portion there's a mad, so I might run out of breath. خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاسْمَعُوا. And again, stop, take a breath. Why? Because the next portion is quite long, okay? And there's a qaf in between. I don't want to stop there, and I want to continue, okay, to be kufrihim. So how would I recite this? قالوا سمعنا وعصينا وأشربوا في قلوبهم العجل بكفرهم. And then I can stop and I can take a breath, okay, and again ponder, and then I can continue to the end of the ayah. So you need to basically look ahead, just the way I was looking ahead, where the qaf is. Okay, if I miss the qaf, if I'm not stopping at the qaf, then where can I stop appropriately? Where can I get my breath to reach, basically? And it's quite important so that you don't end up stopping somewhere where you are not allowed to stop. And then we complete the ayah. قل بئس ما يأمركم به إيمانكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. Now this is quite a long verse if you look at it. From وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ. It's a quite a long ayah. So for me to recite all of that in one breath, okay, I would need lungs that made out of steel. It's quite difficult. So the markers actually help you where you could stop, where you could ponder upon the meaning. Maybe if you don't know Arabic, open up the English translation and go side by side. One of my honorable teachers, Sheikh Imdad Hussain Pirzada from Jamiatul Quram in Nottingham, they've written the whole tafsir of the Quran in English language. So you could even use that. And go with that. So you know where you're stopping. And when you're stopping, you're utilizing that moment, not just to breathe, okay, but also to contemplate on what the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Okay, the next one, the Swad and Lam. Okay, so this specifies about the permission of continued reading, although one should stop here. Okay, so you should stop here, but you can continue reciting. So wherever you can continue, it's best to continue. Here the example is of Surah Taha. قَالَ لَا تَخَافَا. Okay, so you could stop here, or you could continue. قَالَ لَا تَخَافَا إِنَّنِي مَعَكُمَا أسمع وأرى. So you can stop or you can continue, but it's best to continue. If you're going to get confused between trying to remember, the best wherever you can, if there's somewhere only a few words or very short and you've got enough breath, continue, rather confusing yourself. The next one is a small little scene. This you'll find in all the masahif, even the Arab masahif as well. This is known as a sakta, and the sakta is a sign at which the reader should take a brief pause, okay, break the sound, but not his or her breath. The breath should not stop, and a sakta, okay, the breath should not stop. So they should take a small pause in sound only, not in breath, before continuing to recite. And here the example in Surah Al-Qiyamah, وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ. Okay, so I stopped my sound, my breath did not cut. Okay, so same breath, I read both parts, the beginning and the after. So وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ. So I don't make my sakta into a waqf and over exaggerate. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ. No, that'll be incorrect. So just small breakage in sound, and as soon as you've comfortably broke the sound, by holding the breath, continue. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقَ. Inshallah. Now, the waqfa here, wawqafa with the li'ta marbuta, indicates a longer pause than a sakta, Okay, with the same gist of not breaking one's breath whilst taking the break. This here in Surah Al-Nazi'at, you probably heard many Qurra reciting these surahs, these ayat, they're quite famous. And it feels like that they've actually stopped. And then all of a sudden, they recite the last word or so. So this is recited as أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. Okay, so you're stopping, you're taking a breath. No, you're not taking a breath. You're stopping, you're breaking your sound, not your breath. This is sakta. You hold your breath and then banaha. Okay, the last thing you want to be doing is taking a waqfa and then you're talking or you've started breathing and then banaha. No. So you're in the same breath, you're reading both, but it's a longer duration. Okay, a longer pause to allow you to contemplate upon the meaning. So again, أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. So I've kept my same breath from the first part to my second part without breaking my breath, and that's known as the waqfa. And then you've got the Lam Alif. Okay, so here one should not discontinue. Okay, one should not discontinue, meaning one should not stop here, and one should continue. Now, unless this falls upon the end of an ayah, so if it's the end of an ayah and then you got the Ra's al-ayah, meaning you got the round circle with the Lam Alif, then you can stop there, no issues. These verses are the sign of Lam Alif, as it will change the meaning of the Quranic lines altogether. Okay, yet one can stop when it is used at the end of an ayah, okay, upon the circle mark. So you'll find loads of surah, especially in the Juz Amma, where there's a Lam Alif on virtually every single marker. And if you continue reciting every single ayah in one breath, you'll be reciting like half a page to a page in one breath. I can't recall top of my head, but I think Surah Kuwirat, there's a Lam Alif on each one, or Surah Al-Ghashiyah would have Lam Alif on each and every single ayah. So reading all of that in one breath would be very difficult. So here you can see what the Lam Alif is. وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ وَأَنَّى لَهُ الذِّكْرَى. Okay, so here we've recited it all in one breath without stopping. Now, if you look up, if you look up at the Jeem, the permissible stop, and the example there that I gave is the identical example, and it's the identical place. So upon Jeem, I mentioned that it's jaiz. وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ, and I can stop. And then if you scroll down to the example that I've just given you now, Lam Alif, I've given the same ayah again. وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ. So you can't stop here, and the other one is jaiz. So what's the difference of opinion here? So if you look at the text for both of them, the screenshots actually from two different mushafs. Okay, so two different mushafs, and each mushaf has their own tahqiq from their own ulama. Okay, so it could be that one mushaf under certain ulama has been marked differently to a different group of ulama who have marked it differently. So whatever the symbol that you'll find, you follow that symbol. Unless you understand Arabic language, okay, and you could deter that is this waqf jaiz or is this waqf not necessary and I should continue, I should imagine Lam Alif and continue because the meaning makes sense, or should I stop here? So that's quite important that you fixate yourself to one particular mushaf rather than jumping between masahif from different. So whoever your teacher is, whichever shaykh that you're reciting the entire Quran to, double check that with them beforehand. From my personal experience, it's best to probably stick with the mushaf from Saudi Arabia. It's less confusing, less markers in there to confuse you. But the issue with that is that you will require a longer breath, inshallah. Let's quickly look at some questions before we continue. I'm guessing it's best to stick to one mushaf then. Yes, Brother Imran, 100% right. I prefer the non-desi ones. Is it possible to forward notes again in the group I am in? It was not sent. Not sure if I am in the right group. You're in the wrong group. In the chemistry of Tajweed, I sent the notes. Read through the first few verses of Surah Al-Fatiha and the session, for example. Are they reading through the waqf lazim? Brother Ahmed, there's no waqf lazim in Surah Al-Fatiha. So you can pick up and choose a Lam Alif. You stop and which you want to continue. So you can pick. I don't understand this question. So you can pick up. So you have to stop at the circle at all times, regardless of the letter on top of it. No, wherever there's a circle, you can stop. Even though Lam Alif is telling you to continue, you should continue reciting and you should not stop. Okay? You should continue reciting because it's a Ra'sul Ayah, because it's the head of the ayah. Okay, this is where the sentence begins from, and these ayat weren't made by myself or any ulama or any shuyukh or any of the aimma. These ayat were revealed by to the Prophet ﷺ and then passed forward to the Sahaba who compiled it. So it's not something that we've done that. So they've been set for a reason. This is the ayah. There are some difference of opinions where some ulama mention that this ayah actually finished here. Even the example that I've just given you, وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ. Now, I didn't really want to go into this discussion, but according to certain ulama, this is a complete ayah. The ayah here finishes. If the ayah here finishes, then you can start with يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ وَأَنَّى لَهُ الذِّكْرَى. So the only reason why I can continue from here, if I take the opinion, this is a Ra'sul ayah. Ra's means head, ayah of a verse. Okay, this is the beginning of the ayah, beginning of the verse. So if this is the Ra'sul ayah, then stopping here is yajuz, is permissible. But if you're following a mushaf that doesn't have Ra'sul ayah here, okay, doesn't have Ra'sul ayah here, then you must continue. But this will be too confusing unless you know Arabic language or you've studied Tajweed and Qiraat and you know the different opinions, then it's fine. But if not, it's probably best wherever you see them, continue unless it's at the end of the ayah. And you see a big round circle with the number inside representing the ayah number and with a Lam Alif on top, then you stop and take a breath. If not, avoid it. Kaf, I couldn't actually find an example for this. I tried to look for different masahif. I couldn't find it. It's kadhalik. It's like the previous symbol. So imagine an ayah has, for example, a Lam Alif, and then further down it has a kaf there. It's kadhalik, just like the previous one, meaning Lam Alif, don't stop. If you could stop there, then stop here. If you couldn't stop there, you can't stop here. So I couldn't find it. If somebody can find it, do take a screenshot or take a picture of your Mushaf and send it to me, inshallah. Sorry, I meant waqf tam. So, okay, your question, what? Don't read through the first few verses of Surah Al-Fatiha. Yeah, waqf tam, you can continue. Waqf tam doesn't mean that you must stop. Meaning, stopping here is yajuz. You can stop here. The meaning is complete. But it is not incorrect. So you can continue, no problem. And I'll do Surah Al-Fatiha with you, everybody, inshallah, before we finish today, inshallah. The next one, mu'anaka, these are three little dots that you find. Three little dots that you'll find in a verse. So you got a verse, there's no ra'sul ayah, there's no round circle, and you'll find three dots, and then as you look ahead, you'll find another three dots. Sometimes the three dots are in one ayah, and the three dots are in a different ayah. There might even be a symbol in between. So whenever you see one, you must find the other one. Okay? You find one, you must find the other one, and they're always nearby. As you can see in the example here below, after the word ala haya, you've got a three dots, mu'anaka. Okay, let's do Surah Al-Baqarah. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, and then you got three dots. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, and then you got three dots. Then هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Okay, so for the benefit of those who don't have the ayat that we're doing, so Surah Baqarah, the first ayah, everybody should know and know this ayah. So Alif Lam Meem, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, and then you got three dots, mu'anaka. Tamam. And then you've got La Rayba Fih, La Rayba Fih, and then you got three dots. Then Hudan lil Muttaqin, with a round circular stop. This mu'anaka is a sign that signifies about stopping at either one of the little triplet dots, okay, included in it, with no discontinuation simultaneously. Okay, so what it means basically, you stop at one, you can't stop at the other one. If you stop at this one, then you can't stop at the other one. You stop at one out the two, and one you must continue through. Okay, so let's look at this now, a bit more detailed. Now this is a very short verse, and I'll translate it for you to the best of my knowledge and ability, and then we'll contemplate upon the meanings and see why can't we stop at both. Okay. So the ayah is, so I'll translate it word per word. So dhalika, this is al-kitab, that book. Okay, so dhalika al-kitab, this is that book. Book is kitab. So dhalika al-kitab, this is that book. Then la rayba fih, La rayba fih, there's no doubt in it. Okay, La rayba fihi, there's no doubt in it. Hudan lil muttaqin, and it's guidance for the muttaqin, for the God-fearing, pious individuals. Okay, so now let's break this up and translate it piece by piece. So when we say ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, and we stop, and that's a firm statement. This is that book. So for example, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, so this is that book. Okay, then we continue. لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. فيه هدى للمتقين, in it is guidance للمتقين. لا ريب فيه, there's no doubt in it. okay, and Hudan lil Muttaqeen, it has guidance in it. That's what this means. If I stop the other way around, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. Okay, so I can see the three dots before and after the fihi. Okay, so now if I continue from لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين, and then it has there's no doubt in it, and it's guidance for the pious people. If I recited ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه, this is that book that has no doubt in it. فيه هدى للمتقين, it is guidance for the muttaqin people. Now, the sisters pointed out, the brother Bilal, Jazakallah, fihi. Now, the key word here, the fihi. If you join the fihi with after, it has one meaning. If you join it with the before, it has another meaning. So in the Mushaf, when you see the three mu'annika, okay, in and around the, I don't have the Mushaf in front of me. So if the three dots are before and after the fihi, and then if you stopped just before fihi, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب. Okay, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب. So which means this is that book, no doubt. Now we're talking about the cover. This is that book, no doubt. So imagine this was the Quran, which is not the Quran. I don't have the Mushaf with me. So this is the Quran. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبْ. But لَا رَيْبْ now is connected with Al-Kitab. So this book is no doubt. Okay? The word of Allah we're talking about. Then after the ma'anika, when you continue, fihi, which means inside it, meaning leave the front cover and the back cover, this area here, fihi hudal lil muttaqeen. In it is guidance for the muttaqeen, God-fearing pious people. Okay, so in it is guidance. So the front and the back, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبْ, only refers towards the covers. Okay, and then fihi hudal lil muttaqeen, in it is guidance for muttaqeen. Now if you stop the other way around, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, this is that book, no doubt in it. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, meaning this is no doubt the actual book. We're talking about the front cover now. So we're connecting the no doubt with the name of the book now. And then we're talking about what? هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and it's guidance for the muttaqin. So the fihi will determine if you're talking about in it or outside of it. Okay, so the fihi connected with la raib will be inside the book. La raiba fihi. And if you connect the fihi with the one after, fihi hudan lil muttaqin, in it is guidance. That's why you'll hear Qurra stopping at different places. So they'll recite, for example, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. And then some of them will read هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Some will recite فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Okay, so mu'anika, you need to know the meanings and where to stop, where not to stop, and how. Somebody mentioned, I think above, can we continue through both of the three dots so we don't stop at any? No, you should stop at one out of the two. And if you are stopping, if you're not stopping, then you're not reciting according to the riwayah of Hafs. Okay, so riwayah of Hafs, you stop at one or the other. In other riwayahs, you don't have to, you could read ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. No issue. But the riwayah, the recitation that we're focusing on, we must stop. Okay, that was the mu'anaka. And the next one, al-waqfu nabi, the waqf of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is somewhere where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself used to stop and contemplate upon the meanings of the Quran. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stopped here at "Qul sadaqallah." Say, surely Allah has spoken the truth. Okay, فَاتَّبِعُوا مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So that's a walk where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taken place, and many books have mentioned all the wuquf, including this one here, Al-Wasit fi ilm Tajweed. They've mentioned all of the different places where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stopped, and also Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel who was blessed to bring the beautiful message, beautiful words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And ulama have ikhtilaf over the places and the numbers of ayat. Some say 10, some say more, some say, well, no one says less, minimum 10 and upwards. The next one you got waqf ghufran. Waqf ghufran is also a symbol indicating a place where the reciter and the listener should stop to make a prayer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, it's one of the beautiful poses where you could stop and just contemplate and remember Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And at the lastly there you've got it again, waqf manzil, which is the pose of Jibreel alayhi salam. Is a sign indicating that the angel Jibreel alayhi salam used to stop here and take a pause at the time when the Quran was being revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so this is just a brief background to the wuquf and the symbols in the Quran. So the key one that you need to remember, is that wherever there is a Lam Alif in the middle of an ayah, continue, do not stop. If there is a Lam Alif at the end of an ayah, on top of the circle, you can stop. If there's a Meem, a small little Meem, like فَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ قَوْلُهُمْ, stop, take a breath, okay? If you want, it'll take me a bit of time, I can give you the whole entire list of where where this waqf appears in the Quran, the waqf al-lazim, okay, waqf al-tam al-lazim. This is the complete stop, which is compulsory upon you, where you must stop and you cannot continue through. Other than this stop, the remaining stops, okay, you can continue through. If your breath runs out, you stop anyway, then that's obviously al-waqf ittarari. You could stop and then do i'ada, go back and continue. That's quite important to remember that. So let's quickly move on to Ibtida quickly, and then I want to do Surah Al-Fatiha and go through the Surah Al-Fatiha and a few key points about Surah Al-Fatiha, and then we'll finish inshallah. That brings this chemistry of Tajweed al-Huruf section 1 to an end, and then inshallah next week we're going to be going through the Quran itself inshallah. Okay, on page 105 in the Tuhfat al-Atfal textbook, you've got Al-Ibtida. This is the commencing recitation after a waqf. Okay, so whenever now you're stopping in the Quran, if you're stopping at waqf al-lazim, what should you do? How do you start again? If you're stopping at Lam Alif, then how do you start again? Your breath ran out. What should you do? Okay, so this is divided into two types. So first one is Al-Ibtida al-Hasan. Okay, and the second one, Al-Ibtida al-Qabih, disliked. Okay, so briefly, Ibtida al-Hasan, it is to start recitation from the start of the sentence, so that it does not alter the correct meaning of the verse. So wherever you stop, always start from the beginning of the ayah again. Beginning of the ayah again, meaning ayah or the sentence. Now, sentence doesn't necessarily mean the beginning of the ayah. In one ayah, there could be a complete sentence and then another sentence and another sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences in one ayah. Okay, so you need to go back and find where you begin from, and it will be a complete sentence again and not chopping a sentence. So basically, in Arabic language, I don't want to over confuse the difficulty of YouTube live and not being in a classroom is I don't know who my audience is. In Arabic language, you've got certain types of words that are connected with one another. Okay, like mudaf, mudaf ilay, mawsool and sifa. Like for example, jar and majroor, and you can't separate them. You can't break the verse up. You can't have like a verb, okay, and then you stop. And then the subject and the object are in another sentence. It doesn't make sense. So you can't divide, the verb from its subject and object. Or you got the verb, like for example, ضرب Adamu. So Adam hit. Who did he hit? And you take a breath. Okay? And then you mentioned the object, the person who got hit by Adam. Okay? In another sentence. It doesn't make sense. Okay? So, قَتَلَ دَاوُودُ, and then you stop. Dawood. And then you continue. Jaluta. Jalut who? What's Jalut? Okay? So it was Dawood who killed Jalut. So that's one sentence. You can't break it up. Same with like, fi jannatin. Fi jannatin. In the Jannah. You can't just stop at fi, in, take a long breath, and then paradise and continue. It doesn't make sense. So in the paradise or in paradise, you got to join the two together. So that's more to do with the language. So it's best not to stop where there is no stop. Okay, if you can maintain it and complete the whole ayah or the sentence in one breath, complete it in one breath. So al-Ibtida al-Hasan, it is to start the recitation from the start of a sentence so that it does not alter the correct meaning of the verse. Okay. Al-Ibtida. Now, when we done the waqf, where we said that the meaning and the grammar is complete, you could stop here. Also, starting from there would also be Ibtida Hasan. Okay, so where you had waqf al-Hasan, starting from there would be Ibtida al-Hasan as well, because it will be mirroring. So if you stop at a place, for example, I'm stopping at Maliki Yawm. Maliki Yawm, master of the day. Day of what? What day? Which day? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? So Allah's the master of day, Yawm. Not even ayyam, days, all the days of one day. Which day is Allah the master of? So Maliki Yawmiddin. And then I continue. If I stopped here, if that's the waqf kabih, for example, then me continuing from here would also be Ibtida kabih. I can't start from here as well. Ad-Din, and stop. So Maliki Yawmiddin, and then the meaning is complete. The master of the day of judgment. By saying master of day and stopping and then saying judgment, you alone we worship. Ad-Dini iyyaka na'bud. Okay, so judgment, iyyaka, you alone, na'budu, we worship. So who are we worshipping? Day of judgment, or you worshipping Allah? The meaning is totally distorted. So stopping here would be kabih. It doesn't make sense. You stop in here. So al-Ibtida al-kabih will be identical as well. So wherever the waqf was kabih, Ibtida will also be kabih. So let's look at this now. It is to begin a recitation from a point in a verse which results in rendering the meaning of the verse incorrectly. Okay? For example, and the ayah here, for those who've got the Quran in front of you, which you all should have, if you turn to Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 17, unless you've got the Tuhfat al-Atfal textbook, okay, and then you're looking at page number 106, and you'll see the difficulty when you're reciting and not understanding what you're reciting, what types of mistakes you could make. Here, in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. So here, indeed, they have become disbelievers who say, okay, لَقَدْ كَفَرْ, indeed they have kafar, disbelievers, disbelieved, okay, الَّذِينَ, those, qalu, who say, meaning the people who say, okay, such a statement become kafir, okay. So what do they say? Qalu, inna Allah, indeed Allah, huwa al-Masih ibn Maryam, that indeed Allah is the Messiah, son of Maryam, meaning Allah is the son of Maryam, Allah is Jesus, in other words. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. Now, if I was to recite this and stopped here, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا, I stopped here. Then I read, إِنَّ اللَّهَ, indeed Allah, هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ, that he is the Messiah, Ibn Maryam. Na'udhu billah, that would be kufr. You'll be out of the fold of Islam. So making such a blunder, okay, such a mistake, it's going to be crucial. And it's not something that's very light. Just the way I mentioned yesterday and in the beginning of this week, that huwa tajweed al-huruf wa ma'rifat al-wuquf. Sayyidina Ali mentioned the importance of knowing the makharij and the sifat of letters, pronouncing them correctly. Why? Because it will alter the meaning. And we describe this from the ulama of tajweed as lahn al-jali, the big mistakes. Okay, and these mistakes in salah will nullify your salah. If somebody recited Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdu, na'udhu billah. Khamd, okay, according to certain ulama, means la'na and fire. Sorry, Alhamdu, with the two-eyed ha. Alhamdu, ha, ha. With the two-eyed ha means fire or la'nat or disgrace. So Alhamdulillah, all disgrace and fire and lana be upon Allah. Na'udhu billah. So changing a letter will alter the meaning. Similarly, like the example I gave yesterday, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانِ, Allah created mankind, and then reading that as halaqa will change the meaning. Same with qalb, heart, kalb, dog, yeah, saif, safe. Okay, one means summer, one means sword. Many changes, okay, just by a dot, just by a letter, and the meaning will be altered. Similarly in Quran, somebody reciting, Kul huwallahu ahad, eat, he Allah is one. Don't worry, eat. Na'udhu billah. No, it's Qul with a qaf, say he Allah is one. Okay, and similarly, stopping in the wrong place will also alter the meaning and destroy the meaning of the Quran. And like in this example, reading Inna Allah huwa al-Masih ibn Maryam is kufr. That you are certifying that indeed Allah, He is the Messiah, son of Maryam. So you can't stop and start from here. Okay, so start from Inna Allah, incorrect. If you stopped here, for example, if I recited لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا, and I stopped here, okay, which means indeed they have become disbelievers who say. Okay, there's a question, who say what? Who say what? And then I start Inna Allah, so that would be totally correct. So what I need to do, I need to read from لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ all the way up to Maryam. Okay, and it's not long. So you need to understand where you're reciting and what you're reciting, inshallah. So the correct way of reciting this portion is لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. And then taking a breath, inshallah. Okay, it would be al-ibtida ul-kabih if someone began the recitation from Allah is the Messiah, the son of Maryam, as that would be contrary to the purpose of the verse. However, the appropriate places for commencing recitation are the follows. So one appropriate place is obviously starting from the beginning of the ayah, which is لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ. Okay, that's the most appropriate place to start. And in this segment, up to Maryam, there's no other place where you could start from. So just starting from here. And then you could continue, okay? And from there, قُلْ فَمَنْ يَمْلِكُ مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا. And continue reading. Another place in this ayah where if your breath broke, you need to go back and do i'ada again. وَلِلَّهِ مُلْكُ. From here you can continue. So وَلِلَّهِ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Yeah. And then you got the two little pause in this ayah, as you can see. Then you can start from يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Stop. Then وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. تمام. So that's that ibtida. So ibtida and work are related, and they're both dependent upon the meaning and grammar. So it's not something as A, B, C. I know how to pronounce my letters, and I know the characteristics of my letters. I know what ikhfa, idgham, izhar, and I know what mad tabi'i is and mad far'i is. I know what alif hanjara is. I know my tajweed now, and I'm good to go. No, with the waqf and ibtida, there's a lot more to cover than just simply the looking at the meanings. The letters only. It's to do with the meanings of the Quran. So that requires study, it requires himma. And you know this thing about when we're educating our children, we're like, my son's finished the Quran Nazra, starting from Surah Baqarah and finishing on to Surah Nas. My son's done it, he's 7 years old, he read the whole Quran, and he's read it 10 times since, and he's only like 8. No, that's not the purpose. So the Quran, yes, when we're teaching our children, it's to do with fluency and accuracy, but fluency more, accuracy less so. And the reason being, they can't be reciting accurate because they don't know where to stop. And when you come to Surah Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran, where are you going to stop? Yeah? So, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Where are you going to stop? Do you know if you can stop there or you can't stop there? لا تأخذه سنة, and your breath goes. How are you going to continue? Where are you going to go back to? So it's quite important that the tutors and the teachers be conscious about waqf and ibtida. So whatever passage, whatever part of the Quran that you're teaching the child, you should know that yourself. You should know the means of the ayat. Especially when you look at reciters who recite Quran. If I was to go and recite a certain chapter from the Quran in a mahfil, I would make sure I know them ayat, I know the meanings of them ayat, and I know where I can stop, where I can start. Because you might go to the mahfil or in the recitation, you're thinking, I'm going to recite from here to here, and all of a sudden your breath goes halfway, and you need to find an emergency stop. So you need to be prepared for the emergency landing, like an airplane. You're flying from UK to Cairo, and then you had some sort of complication and you run out of fuel, run out of breath, you need to make an emergency landing. You need to be prepared. Where can I land? Yeah? Which country can I land on? Which country, if I landed on, and I'll get destroyed. So that's just an example, by the way, so don't take it serious. So yes, important, inshallah. Let me look at a few questions and we'll do Surah Al-Fatiha quickly. Which must be better for non-Arabs? Non-Arabs, you need to sit with the teacher. I can't. I'm not qualified enough to say, this mushaf is good and this mushaf is not good. I'm not qualified enough. So you'll have to go to a bigger sheikh than me to find that out. I wouldn't know. I use the Arabic Quran, and there's many. I would recommend listen to Sheikh Abdul Basit, rahimahullah, when they're reciting Hafs, and follow them, or Sheikh Khusari or Sheikh Sadiq Munshawi. Follow them in recitation, and wherever they stop, you stop. Okay, avoid any other reciter because they might be stopping in some way that's inappropriate, or they might have mistakes. These three Qur'an that I've just mentioned have been audited by many, many, many scholars who have listened to the recitation and have, alhamdulillah, found it flawless, and they all three of them have passed away. So it'll be sadaqah jariyah for them, and stick with the Abdul Basit, Munshawi, or Sheikh Khusari. If such error in recitation is done accidentally, I unknowingly, will that take it out of Islam? No, accidentally it won't take it out of the fold of Islam. But even accidentally in Salah will break your Salah. It's like, I was praying my Salah and accidentally I passed wind. Your Salah is broken. But it was accident. Yep, your Salah is broken. Yeah. So making accidental mistakes, unless you rectify yourself straight away, but once the Quran should be to a certain degree that their Salah is accepted. Is there a difference of opinion within the Hafs riwayah in Mushaf, Arab and non-Arab? Yes, there are. Okay, it depends now which Hafs you're taking. If you're taking Hafs from the Sughra, or if you're taking Hafs from the Kubra. It might sound Chinese to majority of you. Basically, the Imam Asim had two students. One was Hafs and one was Shu'bah. So he taught riwayah to both of them. Then Hafs carried it down. He taught his student. And then Imam Hafs, as he was teaching the students, somebody came along. His name was Imam Shatibi. Okay, so Imam Shatibi, he studied Hafs. He enjoyed it. He learnt it, and he put together his sanad, his chain, his ijaza to Imam Asim, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then ultimately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via Jibreel. So this was Imam Shatibi. Imam Shatibi is buried here in Egypt, not far from where I live. So Imam Shatibi gathered one qira'ah. Then he realized, oh, this is Warsh. Then he learnt Warsh. Oh, Warsh has another one next to it called Qalun. Okay, both of these are from Imam Nafi'. Imam Nafi' Madani. Imam Nafi' Madani's got Qalun and he's got Warsh. Imam Asim, he's got Hafs and Shu'bah. And then he went on and started gathering. And at the end, long story short, he gathered together 7 imams. 7 imams with each one having 2 students. So in total, how many? 14. These are his 14 different dialects, different ways of reciting the Quran. He compiled them together into a book, into a poem form, called it Shatabiyya. Okay? I've got it at the back there. We'll look at it next week. So he compiled the whole poem together and he named it Shatabiyya after his name, and this is his poem. In there, he has compiled all of these different dialects and styles of recitation. Now, this was roughly, say, 200-300 years after Imam Nafi' Madani. It's quite a long time ago. And then about a good 400-500 years later, somebody else was born, the great Imam Ibn al-Jazari. Okay, Imam Ibn al-Jazari, he was the author of the poem that you could see advertised on the screen now, Muqaddimah Jazariyya. That's also his poem. Imam Jazari was born. Imam Jazari was a great scholar, also just like Imam Shatibi. He went out researching and he started getting all the qira'ats together. But he didn't want to copy Imam Shatibi because Imam Shatibi has done his work. He's got his 7 he found. But now because time had passed, okay, and there's more knowledge around, just like now, you sat at home, I could give you 2-3 words of a hadith and you could go to google.com and Shaykh Google will give you the whole hadith with the sanad within seconds. Okay, and go, travel back in time to like 200-300 years ago. If I gave you 2-3 words of a hadith, you'll be confused. It'll probably take you months to go and do research. Okay, we used to have a subject in Jamiat al-Azhar called Takhrij. And in Takhrij, we used to go and do research of hadith. So we would get like different topics or different few words from a hadith, and we would have to go away and do research and try to extract that hadith. Nowadays, you sit on the google.com, Sheikh Google, Mufti Google, and he gives you everything. So Imam Ibn al-Jazari, they went out and they did their own research and their own tahqiq, okay? And they started gathering, and eventually they managed to find 10 imams, okay? 10 imams, so 7 imams, 7 were of Shatibiya, same imams, and they found 3 more, okay? 3 more. And each one having 2. So they basically found 20 different dialects. And then they compiled it together and wrote their own poem, okay, At-Taiba. So they wrote their own book, Taibat Nashr. So then you've got now one of Imam Shatibi and one of Imam Ibn Jazari. Both of these 2 are authentic, okay? Both of these 2 are authentic. Now, you will find Hafs according to Imam Shatibi. You will find Hafs according to Imam Ibn Jazari as well. And both of these 2 will have certain differences. Nothing major, but they both will have differences. And one difference I'll give you, for example, in Shatibiya, when you're reciting Madd Munfasil, okay, Madd Munfasil, you will do Tool only. There's no Qasr in Madd Munfasil. According to Imam Ibn Jazari, you could do Qasr and Tool. Qasr to 2 haraka or Tool, make it long, okay? So according to Imam Ibn al-Jazari, I could recite the ayah, for example, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ. According to Imam Ibn al-Jazari, Imam Shatibiya, I can't do that. According to Shatibiya, I must recite it as وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ. So I must make it long. I must do the mad in according to Shatibiya. But according to Imam Ibn Jazari, I can make it short. So both of these 2 are correct. Both of these 2 are authentic. Both of these 2 have a sound chain going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and then ultimately to Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. So there are differences. Now the question I've seen somewhere in the comments, is there a difference of opinion within the Hafs riwayah in the Mushafs? Okay, so in the Hafs, yes, there's a difference now. Okay, we've established that now. According to Imam Ibn Jazari and Imam Shatibi, there's a difference. Now the next thing is, if that's within one riwayah. Now imagine the difference between a riwayah and another riwayah. Imagine the difference between Hafs and Warsh. There can be loads of differences. Okay, that's a totally different dialect, totally different style of reciting compared to Hafs, the one we're reciting. Okay, so I'll give an example of that in Surah Al-Fatiha. So I'll come back to this point in Surah Al-Fatiha. So let's start Surah Al-Fatiha due to time. So in Surah Al-Fatiha, when we're talking about waqf and ibtida, you need to look at the meaning. Okay, you need to look at the meaning. Where can we stop? Where can we start from? Okay, so we established yesterday that stopping at the ism, okay, is waqf kabih. So if I recited bism and stopped, that would be waqf kabih. Okay, so even though stopping at Bismillah, okay, is waqful hasan, the meaning is completed, but I can't continue from here. Okay, so we need to do i'ada, we need to go back. So we're going to go back to the same place again, Bismillah. So we recite from in the beginning, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and we stop. Okay, now Basmala, we can also join it with a surah. So we can join it with the first verse of Surah Fatiha. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And if I join it together, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Now, the Alhamdu, there was a Hamza, okay, Hamza al-Wasl. When I'm joining the previous word with the last word of basmala. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Meem. I'm joining with the hamdallah. How can I sit down here? Okay, sit down. So if I'm joining to the first verse of Surah Al-Fatiha, I'm dropping the Hamzat al-Wasl, I'm joining onto the Lam. So mil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, now we continue on to the next verse. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Now, again, if you look at the meaning, all praise be to Allah. Okay, all praise be to Allah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the universe. Okay, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. He is the most merciful, the most kind. But who's the most merciful, the most kind? Because this is a Ra's al-Ayah. Okay, these are also attributes of Allah. So, Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah. So we're talking about Allah now. Okay, first attributes is what? Rabbul Alameen. Okay, He is the Lord of the universe. Then He is also Ar-Rahman. He is also Ar-Rahim. Okay, so all of these are attributes. Then He's also Malik. He's also the master. Malik of what? Yawmiddin, of the Day of Judgment. So these are all attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you're reciting this, you need to... Are you tired? You want to go sleep? Okay, they woke you up. Okay, you sleep here. Okay, so these are all sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so when you... Now, even though you can't... I mentioned that you can't... leave most you can't take the sifa away from the subject. Okay, so the mawsuf and sifa, you can't divide them, but here, because it's a Ra's al-Ayah, it's fine. Okay, so anyway where it's a Ra's al-Ayah, we continue, and then we continue Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Now here the meaning slightly changes. Okay, so we're not talking about the ta'rif, now we're talking Iyyaka na'bud, you alone. So we're talking now directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so we're not describing Allah as a third person. All praise be to Allah. Okay, now it's Iyyaka, you alone, Ya Allah, you alone we worship, you alone we seek help from. And now we're going towards help. So wa iyyaka nasta'een, we're asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Okay, go to Mama, ask Mama for sweet. So Baba said I could have sweet. No, there's more sweet. Baba bring more sweet. Well, ask Mama. So, Iyyaka na'bud wa iyyaka nasta'een. So now this Iyyaka na'bud is a sentence. Wow, okay, which means and. A new sentence begins. Wow, and you alone we seek help from. So now you'll hear loads of Qur'an reciting, and they will recite as, for example, Maliki yawmiddini iyyaka na'bud. And then stop here. Why? It makes sense. Iyyaka na'bud. You praised Allah in the previous ayat, and then you say, Iyyaka na'bud. You alone we worship. Who do we worship? We worship the Master of the Day of Judgment. We worship the one who's most merciful and most kind. We worship the one who's the Lord of the universe. Who do we worship? We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it makes sense. Then they'll repeat this part again from the Ra's al-Ayah again. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. And then they'll repeat it again. So you alone we worship, and you alone, Ya Allah, we seek help from. We need your help. And then the meaning goes towards help. Okay? What type of help do we need? Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Ya Allah, the help that we want from you is just to guide us on the straight path. We don't need bread and butter, and we don't need cars, we don't need money, we don't need wealth, we don't need nothing, Ya Allah. Only thing we require from you, Ya Allah, is to guide us on the straight path. If we get the straight path, we're happy, we're content. We don't need anything else in life. And then we go on to, that's also a complete ayah. Ihdina Okay, ihdina, guide us. As-sirat al-mustaqim, on the path. Which path? Path of the straight path. Okay, sentence complete. These are all ayahs. Okay, the next one, the last ayah of this surah, it begins with صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Now, this ayah here, now it's one ayah. If you look at the Quran, if you look at your Mushaf, you'll see it as one complete ayah, starting from the word sirat, the path, okay, from the word path, all the way up to waladdaleen. It's one ayah. According to Hafs, the one who we all are reciting and why, upon whose qira'ah we are studying, according to Imam Hafs, this is one complete ayah. This is one complete ayah. Now, what do we tend to do? We tend to take a pause. We tend to take a break. Where do we take a break? صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. And we take a pause. We take a breath. So let's look at the meaning now. The previous verse to this was guide us upon the straight path. Which path? صراط الذين, the path of those whom أنعمت عليهم, those whom you have favored. Okay, those whom you have favored. You who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So guide us upon the straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, those who you have blessed. Okay, those who you have chosen. Okay, guide us on that path. And then we take a breath, and then we continue. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Now, here, the meaning, is it connected with the previous part? Yes, it is. Is it connected with the previous part in grammar? Anybody has studied Arabic grammar? If there's anybody in the audience who studied a bit of grammar, okay? Anybody, hands up, give me a little wave if you studied a bit of grammar. Only a little bit of grammar, just like me. I've only studied a little bit of grammar. I'm not very good at it. Okay, whilst we get the, I think there's a bit of a delay. So here now, this second part, غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, is connected with the previous. In meaning, definitely, and I'll explain the meaning until we find a grammarian who could also come on and help us. The غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, so صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, path of those whom you have favored. غير, not. غير means not. Yeah. So not what? غير المغضوب, not like those whom have earned your anger. مغضوب, غضب. Okay, from the word غضب, who have earned your anger. Okay. غير المغضوب, غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, and have gone astray. So meaning, oh Allah, do not make us of those who have earned you anger and have gone astray. So this is obviously all connected with the previous, okay, previous meaning, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. Okay, so اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us upon the straight path. Okay, guide us upon the straight path. What kind of path is this? غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين is a path not of those who earned your anger and went astray. See, so اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم makes sense after اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين also makes sense after اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. So in meaning is connected. Now in grammar, it's also connected. Okay, so غير, okay, غير, the i'rab on the word غير, is it fatha, dhamma or kasra? غير Ra has a kasra. غيري. Now, because the Ra has a kasra, in Arabic language, a kasra is not a natural haraka. Kasra only comes into force, comes into existence, okay? Only comes into force or existence due to a reason, due to a sabab. Okay, so this is also connected with the previous part grammatically. Okay, so صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غيري. This غيري is actually connected with the previous part in grammar also. So starting from here would also be al-ibtida qabih, disliked. Preposition. So غيري is also connected with the previous. Okay, so the previous, so غيري, there's two reasons why something can have a kasra. Okay, one is going to be a jar majroor. Okay, there's a preposition before it, something's going to give it a kasra, or it's going to be mudaf and mudaf ilayh. Now, the word غير does not have a preposition before it. There's no ba before it. There's no fi before it. There's no anything to make it a kasra. So the logical thing is it's mudaf ilayh. So if it's mudaf ilayh, it's mudaf ilayh. So where's the mudaf? In the previous part. So you can't separate the two. You can't disjoin the two. So stopping here, if you were to recite and you recited Surah Al-Fatiha as صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم and stopped, you can't continue from here now. You must go back, okay? You must go back and join the mudaf with the mudaf alayh. Okay? With the mudaf alayh. So غير means what? Not negative. Okay? غير, not negative. Now, when you join it with the previous, okay, so غير means except, okay, not or negative. When you join it with the previous, then it take the meaning, okay, as what? Path of those whom you have favored, okay, except the, or not like those whom have earned your anger and have gone astray. So it's all connected. So when you're reciting, you can't stop here and you can't start from here. So when we recite Surah Al-Fatiha in our riwayah, in our qira'ah, in the qira'ah of Hafs and Asim, we don't stop here. This is one complete ayah. Now, according to other riwayat, like for example, Warsh upon Imam Nafi al-Madani, okay, you can stop here. You can stop here. And the reason why you can stop here, because according to Imam Nafi al-Madani, this is actually a Ra'sul ayah. This is actually the head of ayah. So basically, if you looked in the Mushaf of Imam Nafi al-Madani, okay, in the form of Warsh or Qalun, whichever riwayah, okay, both of them are identical, both of them you can stop here. There would be صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, and then there will be a round circle. There will be a round circle, and then it will continue غير المغضوب عليهم الضالين. So صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, round circle. Take a breath. Yeah, like I mentioned before, Lam Alif on top. Okay, if it's on top of a round circle, stop, take a breath. That's a Ra's al-ayah. And then continue. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمُ الضَّالِينَ. No problem. So according to our Imam, okay, Imam Asim, we cannot stop here. It's one ayah. According to Imam Nafi' Madani and the other Aimma actually out of the 10 Aimma, they actually divided into half. 5 Imams mention that you can't stop here. 5 Imams mention you can stop here. Okay, so the Imam that we follow, okay, Imam Hafs, is of those Imam who believe that you can't stop here as it's one complete ayah. Makes sense, inshallah. So when you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, do not stop here. Do not take a breath at صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم الضالين. No, that's ابتداء قبيح. Okay, وقف قبيح, ابتداء قبيح, because what's coming after, if your breath runs out, yeah, that's a different matter. Your breath runs out, but you need to take a deeper breath. Yeah. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم, and stop here. And then do إعادة again. غير المغضوب عليهم والضالين. Okay, because you're repeating again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us, inshallah. That's the end of chemistry of Tajweed al-Huruf. I hope and I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everybody benefited. Any blunders, any mistakes, any slip of the tongue, any miscalculations, any misunderstanding, any wrong information is all from me, and this is my weakness as a human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and the ability to study Tajweed correctly and recite the Quran correctly. Inshallah, from next week on Monday we will be reciting the Quran. We're going to be starting from Juz Amma, from the 30th Juz, and we're going to be working our way back, inshallah, and we'll see how much we can cover. So we won't be covering loads of different surah. We're going to be looking through every single surah, the makharij we're going to be looking for, the sifat, we're going to be looking for where can we stop, where can't we stop, and how it should be recited. Those brothers and sisters, preferably brothers, but if there's any sisters who wish to partake, you're welcome to do so. We're going to be trying to put a line together. So during the lesson, it's a bit, I would never use the word boring. It feels lonely, you know, when I'm talking to a screen, and even my eyes start hurting, you know, after an hour and a half, and talking to myself where I'm not getting no feedback and I don't know what's on people's minds. So for next week, we're going to try to, if you could WhatsApp me beforehand, before the lesson, that I would like to recite. And then during the class, inshallah, we could even have a few of the brothers and sisters calling in and reciting. And then we could have a discussion as well. And that would be beneficent to all listeners, inshallah. So we'll arrange that. There'll be two different ways you could call in. But you would need to let me know beforehand, inshallah. So we could arrange that, inshallah. Let's quickly flip through the questions. How's the following? Okay. Mad munfasil makes sense. There is meaning of illa, I believe. Possibly. So غير المغضوب عليهم الضالين. Possibly. Possession, preposition, good vibes. Kasra is due to two reasons only. One, if it's followed by a preposition or in a idafa structure. So mudaf ilayh. That's correct. So here there's no harf jar before the word ghayr. It's not like bighayri. There's no ba there or anything. So it's definitely a mudaf ilayh. So you can't separate the mudaf from its mudaf ilayh. So it's one complete sentence. The only way you can continue from غير المغضوب عليهم والضالين, if this is a ra'sul ayah. If it's not a ra'sul ayah, you cannot start from here. Okay? So in our riwayah of Hafs, it's not a ra'sul ayah. And basically, the Surah Al-Fatiha has 7 verses. 7 verses. Okay? So let's count them. According to Imam Hafs, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, verse number 1. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. That's 6 verses up to here. Then the last one is Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim ghayr al-maghdubi alayhim wal-dallin. That's Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? According to the other ulama, the other 5 a'imma, according to them is, the first ayah is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, okay, Maliki Yawmiddin, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And they still got 2 more ayahs to make up to number 7. Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned Sab'a Mathani, there are 7 ayat in the Surah Al-Fatiha. So what do? صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم ayah, round circle. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ayah. Hence why the difference. Here there is a Lam Alif, then a number 5 below, which 6 number. Yes. So sisters mentioned here that in her Mushaf she can see there's a Lam Alif. Lam Alif means do not stop here, continue. So according to Hafs, we can't stop here, we need to continue. And the little 5, that resembles that according to other ulama, according to other scholars, this is a verse. Okay? Just like, the example I gave before in Surah Fajr, where وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمْ. Okay? Lam Alif. So according to us, we need to continue. But according to other ulama, it's actually a verse, complete. Identical scenario. Interactive. Inshallah, interactive next week. Sorry, I could not stop on alayhim, but we'll need to go back to beginning of verse. Sorry. So I could stop at alayhim, but we need to go back to beginning of the verse. The Sirat al-Ladina anamta alayhim. Don't stop here, continue. So read, take a deep, after, when you're reciting Salah, take a deep breath. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Just take a deep breath. Don't rush it. I'm not in the group. She could please add me. Inshallah. If you private message the screen, and I'll add you in, inshallah. Surah 54 mentions 7 verses. Sabba min al-Mathani. Yes. Inshallah. So barakallah feekum, inshallah. I'll see you all, inshallah, on Monday. Have a lovely day off tomorrow. And keep me in your du'as, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.